During a ferry in the city, everyone ran from the place, laughing only on Boncher at a bar full of the most dangerous criminals. A hooded man walked past him, saying he just wanted to grab a beer. The bouncer asks if knows that the bar is for criminals only. But the guy goes up the stairs and finds a warrior drinking in the hallway. This drone looks at him and smiles, thinking it is going to ban his victim, because he is one of the deadliest warriors alive. On the first attack, the intruder dodges easily. But when the guy draws his sword and attacks, the warrior can barely defend himself. The criminal was impressed and started fighting for real. But in the blink of an eye, the hooded man made an attack so fast that he took the criminal's head, clean off with no time to rest. Then he kept moving, reaching the most dangerous floor, the baddest floor along with his top killers. He walked in like the biggest swinging dick in the room, saying he detect everyone out. The boss burst out laughing, calling him a joker. But when the guy made a head flee, everyone was in shock, asking what this guy even was. The man with his blood-soaked sword sat down on the ladder as thrown. Every criminal in the room wanted to rip his head off, but the leader said he'd handle it himself. The next day, the kingdom's nobles were planning to gather the best soldiers to hunt down this ladder when suddenly a child walks in carrying a box. When he opened the box, he saw the ladder's head delivered to him on a silver platter. Everyone was wondering, who did this? How someone managed to walk into the most dangerous guild's base and take his head? Whoever did this is no ordinary person. Years ago, he fought in a war, wiping out an entire army who was always the most brutal meat that ever existed. This is Aaron, and he was born into this chaos. To survive and not starve, he had to become a mercenary in the middle of this. But last, a red-haired woman came into his life. She was the only one who brought praise to his hair. When all of that was over, she asked him to go as together where it rained a lot now. She is no longer with him, and every time it rains hard, Aaron thinks of her. Today, he is the captain of Unit 4 of the Kasardik Fortress Guard, a city on the border. He works reporting to a commander fat and short-tempered named Manuel. Hans a blonde make Aaron met back in the academy and treated like a brother. Stole something from the local lord's daughter and vanished. Manuel sends Aaron to hunt him down alive or dead. If the captain failed, his head would be taken. Aaron tracks Hans to District 7 inside an alley, finds him hooded and badly wounded. When he tries to arrest his friend, Hans fights back with magic summoning water magic. Aaron charges straight at him and shoots Hans' throat before he can finish the spell. The shoot is shallow on purpose. Aaron looks at his friend as Jesse, searching for this card that will prove up to read a demon. And finds nothing. Aaron doesn't understand what Hans was doing, but he couldn't bring himself to kill his friend, and opens a secret passage, tosses a healing potion at his friend's arm, and tells him to disappear. Hans vanishes, and the mission officially fails. The next day the whole group ends up at a bar, drowning their sorrows over the failed mission. But Aaron isn't with them. He was called to a meeting with William. The head of the guard walks over slowly and starts asking about Hans. The sidekick knows Aaron patrolled the last district alone and asks if he found anything. When Aaron says no, William brings in Manuel. Can you accomplish this by his hand? Aaron walks out of Jura with the vacuous smile in Kasarik's history. That afternoon on his way home, Aaron walks past a tavern and hears a woman screaming. Inside the bar, a group of mercenaries had cornered Hannah, the innkeeper. One of them was touching what they shouldn't. That is when Aaron walked in, and the woman ran behind him like a wall. Aaron grabbed the gear and turned his back. The mercenaries got mad that they were being ignored and decided to push their luck. But MC grabs the guy by the face and tells them they're a bunch of losers. Then she drove the guy into the wall and said he was going to teach all of them a lesson real quick. The guy calmed down and went back to drinking. Dylan refused to apologize to the woman, so the MC decided to give him some special treatment in a totally prideful way. After hearing everything, he apologized. That night, Darren fell asleep and had a dream that was taken with a dream. In the dream, Agni told him to run without looking back. Sayen Haine added to left, Aaron jolted awak, sword in hand, and heart pounding. They broke it. Aaron was training swordsmanship alone, when an elegant man appeared, complimenting his technique. It was been a knight from the Venner family, an elite imperial order trying to kill demons. Before the conversation called going further, Viven, the only daughter of Khazard X Lord, came running in complaining. But when she saw Aaron, she apologized for interrupting his training and took Ben away. Ben left still confused, certain that Aaron was a knight in disguise day. Punishment for betting of the mercenaries here by the Lord came shortly after with Manuel. Screaming solo they almost broke the fourth wall. Aaron was sent to Nova, the castle administrator, a serious woman with zero patience for him, trying to follow Kali Unke's advice, smile, and give compliments to win a woman over. The captain flashed a terrifying smile, and started throwing out compliments that made absolutely no sense. Nova was disturbed, told him to stop, and handed down the punishment. Aaron would take the mercenaries pledge on an escort mission and would get paid $30. When he arrived at the mission, Aaron found it strange that there were so many mercenaries for a simple escort. Everyone looked ready for a real battle. When he turned around to ask something, he found the woman grouper standing right in front of him. Dylan was thrilled to show Aaron and swore eternal loyalty to his big bro. No theory in the village of not fell on the outskirts of Khazard. The mercenaries are confused because the village is completely empty, no civilians anywhere. One of them even wonders if this is the work of a demon. Dylan says Aaron walking off and starts following him. Deeper in the village, a mercenary asks where the guard is going and where all the people who lived there went. In a flashback, a kid gets a bow. The MC gave him. He is super happy and tells the master knight to visit him whenever he is in the village. Walking around, Dylan steps in a red liquid and feels disgusted. Aaron tells the vassal not to look ahead, but Dylan ignores him and lifts his head. He says something horrifying. A bunch of citizens rush him. It makes the mercenary want to throw up. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to captain of the guard. Aaron, Viven shows herself and asks why he is there. So, the guard asks her the same thing back. Later, the mercenaries are eating soup, happy with the food. Villain asks how those guys can advance after saying so many bodies and wow the monster was that. That's something like that. An old man shows up and says it was a sacrifice used in a ritual where humans are offered to demons. Then, he offers them a swig of wine. But Aaron refuses because alcohol messes with his senses. Dylan, on the other hand, accepts straight away. John introduces himself as the convoy commander and asks if the two of them are mercenaries. Aaron introduces himself back and says he's not a mercenary. So, John just tells them to add wine and rest because they trip well belong. Suddenly, the three of them say Viven arrive and her beauty impresses Dylan all over again. John says he is surprised. I didn't expect the be escorting the chariot of the Lady of Khazard. The MC remembers when I found Viven in the middle of the village and asked where she was. Terry Viven says she was out for a while because she felt suffocated and her father suggested she go to the Bolt Fortress. Aaron asks if she means the Lord. But then Ben shows up and cuts the conversation off. Trying to put the MC in his place, the knight says knowing too much brings responsibility, and Aaron should only know what is necessary for his position. Back in the present, the guard still wants to know why the Lord sent Viven to Bolt. John says a demon called show up and Aaron would still be calm. War hero says they got a knight with them and that elite force of the Empire is trying to kill demons. Plus, with that sword, even going through the dangerous situations he is unfortunately managed to survive up to now. Hearing that, the convoy commander just wishes Aaron good luck. Later, the guard captain finished the book he gave to the kid from the village who remembers how happy the boy was with the gift. He realizes it has been a long time since he was last there, and by now, Horn should be pretty grown up. Suddenly, something jumps out to attack the MC, but they counter straight away, crushing part of the monster's head. Eventually the creature gets back up, but it is quickly hit with a slash across the chest. After finishing off the creature, our hero wonders if that thing was a zombie and where it even came from. Dylan, on the other hand, freaks out when he sees one of the monsters starting to swing its sword. Then the zombie's head gets separated from its body, and that leaves the head shocked. He gets super happy when he sees his big brother, Aaron, Terry, and he grabs onto his legs. Aaron asks where the others are, but the vessel just says they rescued because all the mercenaries and soldiers were asleep, and they want to wake up with as like they were put under a spell. Our hero starts thinking since neither he nor Dylan got affected by the magic, but Aaron realizes someone drugged the stave with sleeping pills, and the goal was to capture someone alive. That person was probably Viven, and suddenly, Dylan tells him to look at something. A horde of zombies appears right in front of them. The creature starts screaming and saying that Aaron tells the vessel to get back, while thinking they do warm up. With past zombies before the real action starts with his sword skills. Our hero starts leeching through a bunch of zombies, swinging his sword left and right. He takes out tons of enemies. Then he jumps forward heading into finish to say brainless things for good. Some team passes and rain falls on Aaron as he stands surrounded by zombie bodies. Hearing something, the MC realizes he left one of the monsters alive. He turns around, but what he says is really sad. Horn, the boy he helped, was now a zombie, crawling toward him. Even second up, Aaron moves toward the zombie, saying that as expected, Horn really had grown up. 2 years earlier, our MC was hiding in a village to escape lone sharks. In a flashback, a little blonde boy tells Aaron master naked, and Aaron asks why he is telling him that. Horn, a book lover, explains he read in a book that snakes are strong and tall, and Aaron was the strongest and coolest person he'd ever seen, so that is why he called him that. The guard starts messing with Horn, ruffling his hair, thinking he really liked that kid. Back in the present, rain falls on zombie Horn's head and on the MC event. After settling into the Kashyyyk fortress, Aaron still went to visit his little friend. They tell him about the Hook Library in the city full of books. Hearing those stories, Horn would say he wanted to become a librarian, and Aaron got it because the kid was crazy about books and that job fit him perfectly. At that moment, the guard tries to swing at the zombie in front of him, but he hesitates before he can do it. Remembering the day he saw Horn's face all bruised up and asked if something happened. Horn trying says that bad him out because he talked about his dream of becoming a librarian, but his father said a farmer is son can only be a farmer. Thinking about that, Aaron says demons don't feed on human fare, but on despair. Then he steps forward and hugs his zombie friend, completely heartbroken. He even takes a bit from Horn. Then he says he wasn't agnied, just the captain of the fortress guard. Suddenly, a bunch of people arrive. Dylan shows up with an army and tells his brother he woke up all the mercenaries. Then he orders them to whip out all the zombies, and the mercenaries charge into battle. Aaron lays Horn's body down on the ground and crosses his eyes, asking him to rest in peace. Suddenly, the building where Viven was starts to catch fire. Grabbing his sword, the MC walks off to avenge his friend. Inside the building, a woman gets killed. After that, Ben says the reason they were secretly heading to another fortress was because someone was after young Viven, and apparently the rumor was true, and even though he was ready for this sudden attack, they kept holding his sword for that lady because that was a very nice dream. That wouldn't change even if his enemy was some twisted demon, so he tells that disgusting thing to back off. The demon mocks the knight and tells him to stop talking nonsense because it wouldn't change. And thing after all, dagger that wounded him was poisoned, and the stave was too. So the young man as men must be messed open, no chance of winning. Hearing that, Ben doesn't flinch, tells his enemy ugly. Annoyed, the demon's arm starts opening up with a bunch of eyes. Then, it lunges at the knight, warning him to watch his mouth. It lands on the ground in front of him, with a massive impact. Ben realizes he is only at half his strength, and the aura on his sword is almost invisible. However, the demon corruption was only on one arm, so you could bet him be hitting his human parts at that as Why bandogis the enemy strict and goes into attack. He uses his rapid to slash at the demon's neck, thinking he still has a chance to win. But with his demon arm, the monster grabs Ben Bleating throat, showing he already knew Ben as planned. Then, as I said, he never be at the hands of some random knight, so he starts choking the knight. Untraced before passing out, Ben says something. Aaron appears on the demon's back, ready to avenge her, stabbing the devil from behind and making ketchup spray everywhere. Even after losing part of its head, the monster turns around and counterattacks, smacking Aaron with its demon arm and throwing him back. Then it starts regenerating, saying that because of some bastard, it ended up wasting blood. And because of that, he needed to grab Viven Vasti the MC. Even injured, dash back up and says his friend turned it into a zombie. So he is going to get revenge for him. He charges at his enemy, clashing his sword against the demon arm. Aaron gets thrown back again, but still manages to slash his opponent's chest, trying to stun. Our hero says he'll keep putting the monster until it stops regenerating. That pisses the half demon off even more, and it starts cursing at the guard. While it is regenerating, the idiot realizes the demon arm has started sucking his blood, and at his rata, he is going to get drained. Manuel, the MC gets up again, mocking his opponent for already freaking out after just 2 attacks, and jumps in once more to attack the disgusting creature, the demon catchers. The guard is sword and asks what the hell on even was for him to go this far. It also wonders where this guy's strength is coming from since he isn't even acne. Aaron notices something behind him, turns and blocks an unknown attack, then Bruno struggle, reveals himself as a traitor. Aaron says he was basically just waiting for John to show his true colors. The commander starts swinging his sword like crazy while defending. Aaron says the villagers were sacrificed and John showed up at the perfect time. So he suspected him with their sword slash, and the commander is furious at Aaron, because thanks to him, the plan still hasn't been completed. Taking advantage of that, the Satanist tries to hell. But the demon arm starts moving on its own and says it as to. Later, the body is denied anymore. The demonic eruption begins spreading through the idiot's body, even as he begs for his life. During the exchange, Aaron's sword breaks, leaving him in a really bad spot. John takes the chance to pull a dagger and end the fight before the commander Chando Anjing. The MC smashes him right in the face with the hilt of his sword. The commander starts to fawn, complaining about his defeat. But the real nightmare is only just starting, and a humanoid shape appears, seeing the disgusting creature in front of him. Aaron realizes that Guy's body was completely eaten by the demon. The nasty monster starts doing something with its core. Tain asks what Aaron is going to do because he is about to betakan. After the guard has no strength left, and he isn't even acne, so it wants to see what the human will do. Even hearing that, the MC rushes the demon anyway, grabs its shoulder, and bites the disgusting thing with his own mouth, thinking he still has no strength to fight. Saying that, the creature starts laughing, impressed, and then something happens. Suddenly, Aaron wakes up in a tavern. Tere, the gladiator Golgi, is demanding a debt from his gambler buddy named Way. Watching that, the Megaferry starts laughing. The red-headed face captain, Udra, tells Way to cut it out and give Golgi his money back. Aaron recognizes them as his old comrades from his mercenary days. Annoyed, Golgi lets Way go and the gambler tries to explain himself to Udra. Then the group S commander puts a hand on Aaron's shoulder. When the MC turns around, he says the commander completely beaten up, asking if he forgot. The commander says Aaron has to survive no matter what, and then we say all around the guard, his entire old group playing dead. Saying that, the demon A comments that it was so delicious. Aaron wakes up from that crazy dream back in reality and Ben asks how the captain is doing. The MC realizes the knight is still alive. Ben says Aaron almost tried to dead and his presence was getting weaker and weaker. But now it is back to normal. While our hero wonders why he feels so good, the knight says he found him unconscious there. Also, that human demon was lying right next to him, Then someone asked if Aaron was still on the wall. Bet the villain, but the guard says he doesn't remember anything. And since the monster was already dead, it didn't really matter who killed it. After that, the MC asks why the demons were after. Vivian angrily looked like she been sleeping peacefully, totally unaware of everything. Ben says that is none of his business, but admits he owes Aaron for the help. She properly introduces himself as Ben, a knight from the fortress, and thanks the captain for helping out. The MC just tells Ben not to worry about it, and finally, morning comes. They light a bonfire to burn the zombie bodies. Watching Hon turn to Ase, Aaron realizes those bastards sacrificed the whole village to Montai. Devil, they did all of that because they wanted the life of Lady Daseric and the whole situation smelled fishy, so he turned and leaves. After all the bodies are cremated, the caravan heads back to Casertic. They also agree to say Ben was the hero who defeated the demon. Because if people found out about Aaron's contact with a demon, things could get worse and the judge might start an investigation. Either way, Aaron is happy because he survived and he is going to get a reward. Dylan shows asking why his brother is walking so fast. The MC says that Weasel survived by hiding under a pile of bodies and he was stubborn as hell. Even so, Aaron survives direct head away while celebrating that it was finally over. But later in his room, the captain realizes it was only just beginning. Looking at his chest, Aaron says demonic eye and gets completely confused. The eye talks and asks how its new friend is doing. Without hesitating, the guy grabs a dagger and tries to shoot the train out of his body. The blood hits the eye, but it does nothing, and the demon laughs, saying it tickles. Pissed off, our hero starts yelling at the demon to shoot out, and even Hannah hears him. After filing, the MC lies down on the bed and asks if the eye is the same demon from before, and it confirms it. The captain wonders if the monster got into his body when it bit him and if that is why he lost his memories. The creature says it was just taking control of the body and the guard tells it to get out or he'll rip it out by force, totally unfazed. The monster says that is not up to Aaron and that. Switching host takes team, more specifically about 100 years. And hearing that, the MC tries to stop the eye again. The demon says possessing the captain's body could be good for both of them. Then it starts using its power, making a green mist appear around Aaron's sword. When the captain realizes its aura, he wonders how a demon can use the mist's power completely. Exhausted, the eye tries to play it off and asks if the captain can save that potential. Before it can finish talking, the eye passes out, leaving our hero confused. Disappointed, the guard calls the guy awaking, but then Hannah suddenly yells for Aaron. And that freaks him out because if anyone saw that thing on his chest, he'd be betrayed. She tells him to hurry downstairs because someone from the church is looking for him. Tired of waiting, the church guy pushes past Hannah, shoving her aside. Then he orders that them peasant to show himself and not kept a noble waiting because Sir Ben was looking for him. Before he can say anything else, he gets punched right in the face. Aaron acts like a heck knows him, telling the guy Gigi, the half-breed, hey, tell us the ugly blood to just literally for a bit while he finishes getting ready. Later, as he watches him leave, Hannah says in a flirty way that she learned a magic that can make onion very good, but it cost 50 bronze coins. And hearing that, Aaron ignores her and leaves, dragging the half-breed along. Walking through the city, the MC feels relevant. He thought he was in trouble, but it was just Ben. Then he wonders if he is going to get a reward for defeating the demon. In a flashback, Ben asks if Aaron is sure about his decision because defeating a demon is a super prestigious title. The captain says yes and jokes that if Ben is insisting that much, then he just wants part of the reward. Ben says that if he gets a reward, he'll call him. The MC explains that aura is a power meant to destroy evil, a miracle granted only to knackers. Only people chosen by the Empire become knackers and nobody really knows how to retrain it. So it is weird and scary that the demon is power looks like aura. Aaron asks the half-breed how long it is going to take. Jess tells the Guito be patent and asks what kind of nickname that was. The MC explains he calls him that because Jess was adopted, only half noble. Hearing that, the half noble swears he'll finish the MC of Somedai. But right then, the two of them reach the solar church as Mainhang, and seeing it, Aaron freezes because no there is a demon inside his body. Inside, Ben welcomes the captain, and says they've been waiting for him. Pointing out that the ghoul looks really nervous in his head. Aaron answers that he is tired of getting exorcised. Ben then introduces the church as priest, Blaine, and he greets the visitor. He also introduces a super dog jacket woman named Joanna. The Inquisitor, praising her fight, Joanna and Aaron lock eyes. The Inquisitor suddenly moves in on the MC, and he puts his hand on his sword, thinking he has been found out, but Joanna just bonks him on the head. Real excited says the Inquisitor extended her hand of blessing so. Aaron is lucky. Aaron realizes it as some kind of religious ritual, and on the other hand the demon inside him gets pissed off at being touched beyond of God as underlings. Blaze says he already knows Aaron refused the credit event, though he deflated the demon. So the church is going to make a small gesture to honor his achievements. Seeing an item in front of him, the MC recognizes it as the church's gold brooch. He asks if he can really accept it, and the priest confirms they can. Blaine only asks that Aaron lend his strength whenever the church needs it. Our hero says he is here. Blaine is one of the church owners responsible for controlling the power, being chaotic. But can they sucks that from today on the priest will be shatter in fate. He even wishes long life to the solar church, saying the MC with his hair slicked back and looking totally different. Cal asks if he intimidated and robbed some noble. Aaron ignores him and criticizes the scarf Cal is wearing, which makes the guy really mad. Then he explains the brooch is a gift infused with the sun god as energy, and the armor was bowed with sacred gold. At that moment, a cloth girl with 2 hooked balloons on her chest walks up to deliver 2 mugs of beer. Cal thanks Charlotte and she asks if Brick isn't around. She heard he is off today. She and Cal start chatting, and the woman reveals she likes Brick, so she has been wanting to give him a masakin herring. That Aaron realizes Hannah learned that from Will, also complaining the bear is warm since he Mrs. is cold bear. Charlotte asks if they heard the rumors a group of scammers showed up around Terra, more specifically at the Sick Mermaid Inn, since a bunch of outlaws have been staying there and betting started happening at the inn. We said not believing what he asks. Saying he asks how the person in front of him managed to roll a 6-5 machine arrow, even accusing them of cheating. Charlotte wraps up her gossip, saying that in the inn-as betting games, a little girl was basically running the dice table. Furious, Aaron stands up, wondering how some underage kid dared to gamble in his district. He says that as captain of the church guard, he is not going to just sit there and watch this happen. Cal crawls over, begging his captain not to do it, leaving Charlotte confused. With a scary feeble, Aaron tells Cal to come with him, because he is going to wipe out that kid as little gambling operation. Aaron kicks in the door of the Sad Mermaid Tavern. The bartender, Joseph, freaks out, but the guard just asks where the betting table is. Joseph asks if Aaron didn't quit gambling. Our hero says he won a ton of money, so he is only going to play ons. He sits at one of the tables saying he wants to see if this kid is really that good with this. After ruling again, Aaron and the kid gambler both get asikas, so it is a tea. The MC decides to raise his bet, and the little girl immediately raises hers. She thinks he threw a few runs on purpose, and because of that, Aaron got cocky and started betting big money. The man behind her gives a signal, and when she says it, she realizes it is time to start. So, the little brat starts manipulating the dish inside the cup with magic. She is thinking she is about to steal every cent from this idiot, when suddenly the guard tells her to stop. Aaron asks if the thief is trying to cheat using magic, and she asks if he has proof. He says she does, and reveals the bandit changed his D to a 4, and she also changed her own D to a 4 so she will win the game. Then he leaves the top of his D, proving he is right. He says he is sure the girl used magic. And honestly, it is common for a gang of criminals to use a young Maggie to cheat in betting games. One of the guys in the crowd reveals he is the one behind the wall shame and pulls out a sword. Then he tells Aaron to hand over all his money if he wants to live. The MC says if those idiots haven't know who he was, they wouldn't be doing this still. He says he actually liked this game. So, the guard tosses a gunpoint onto the table, asking for only more ruin. When they say it is a real gold coin, the bandits freak out. One of these Dumbaga asks what Aaron's gold event is because he knows everyone. There is a criminal, including the girl, and yet he still wants to play. Tired of all the talking. The guard asks if the idiot is scared, that pisses the criminal off. He bets all his money and says that if Kena doesn't win, he will lose his hand. While he spins the cup with his D, the MC says the mate should have gone to a magic academy instead of getting mixed up with bastards. Then he asks if the girl is poor and trying to win money to go to a magic academy. Kena tells Aaron to stop assuming Stufie doesn't take no anything. Judging by her reaction, the guard realizes he was right. The ex-guy thinks they want to let this dude live alive after exposing them, so when Aaron reveals his D, they'll finish him off. But suddenly, the guard asks if Nathan frees a bear with magic. The thief says yes, but she is instantly confused by the question. The captain is happy with the answer and out of nowhere throws the straight into the ex-guy's face. While they're explaining how this game works, our MC starts throwing handies. One of the punchers Aaron to mess him up, and during the whole rules of the game explanation, the ball just explodes. Our hero starts handing out punches and kicks to all the bandits in the bar. Furious, the ex-guy jumps at the guard, but misses. Aaron grabs the axe handle and asks if they aren't ashamed of living off a little girl. He grabs the bandit by the neck, pushing the idiot out with a purple aura. The boss of the idiot tapers behind Aaron, bringing his dagger up to Aaron's neck. The MC hasilly dodges, making the attack hit the ex-guy instead, and he recognizes that purple aura is dark magic. He even mocks the boss for accidentally taking out his own partner. Then he grabs the Dumbas by the face and lifts him up into the air. Shouting out that, Kena can't believe on it. Gue beat everyone Terry. Cal tosses the gold coin back to Aaron, complaining that he always gets into trouble when he is gambling. Then he recognizes the bandit as Shocker, wanted assassin from the neighboring city. Aaron ignores it, starts looking for Kena, and finds her nearby. The thief shrinks back, apologizing and begging to be spared, asking if Aaron has money, but the guard just says that if she makes him a cold mug of beer every day, he'll introduce her to a great job with room and board until Kena gets into a magic academy. Then Aaron asks if she is any. Shocked, the little girl immediately agrees. The next day, Aaron is back at his morning training. Kena comes up offering beer and he calls her a mini fridge. After taking a drink, the guard gets super happy because it is at the perfect temperature. Then he asks how old she is. When she says she is 12, the captain gets confused because the mini fridge is reality. And he even asks if Kena is a dwarf. Hannah shows up annoyed, asking if that girl is Aaron's daughter. Hearing that, the MC practically spits out his beer, then explains he found Kena on the street. Also, Hannah needed helpers, so Kena would be a new employee. The tavern owner hooks the ex-thief, saying there is no way a girl that could take out by Aaron's kid. She starts saying she knows about the girl is past and that she'll protect her from no one, but showing her real intentions. Hannah asks how many cups of his cold beer refit can make per day. Aaron's daily routine as captain of the guard starts with him greeting Manuel when he arrives and getting scolded for beating people up. Second, he patrols the market to keep order in the fortress, and they add some fruit without paying use because he is shameless. Even annoyed, the vendors forgive the captain, because thanks to him, the market stays plentiful. Lastly, his group intimidates bandits to extort money from them. Cal threatens a smuggler, and at that moment, Aaron walks up and tells the guy to take it as. There he tells his allies to take 300 copper coins and keep 100 so, but Kelly and Paul thank him at the city gate, Our hero is doing an inspection. Out of nowhere, some guy shows up reciting a secret code. Aaron asks if Tarzan take it again, and the messenger thirsty. What not to say the name of the fortress as Shadow so carelessly. Even so, or MC just tells the guy to shut up and say where he is there. After looking around, the bad dude decides a lot of weird people have been coming into Khazard lately. A bunch of them were pretending to be merchants and acting suspicious. So, the guy hands Aaron a note. They notice the outsiders got into the fortress and were trying to hail Guti Volunteer, the king of shadows. Reading that, Aaron gets stunned and embarrassment, crumples the paper up and tosses it. Yes, I say, doesn't he have time for as little games and stares underling soul that the owner reporting this? The guy asks how the guard can be so mad and gets sent away again. Aaron thinks more outsiders this backwater would actually be good for the economy. Right then, Acharya shows up and the MC tells Carter to wake out because it is time to make money. He signals the child to stop, no teaching. So meeting is awful. The MC feels a weird vibe coming from the river. While the captain is thinking about arresting the guy, Carter, on the other hand, acts like he knows the merchant. He introduces him as Dorno, a traitor transferred from work. Holding a bag of coins, Dorno starts buttering Aaron up. Grady Aaron totally falls for it. Just takes the money and decides the guy. Sam's call. Carter asks if the merchant brought that, and the man agrees. Showing a vial filled with little black pellets. CP Carter thanks him and asks for only, saying it knocks him out. After he takes it, when Aaron walks over, Carter asks his captain not to confiscate it, which confuses him. Aaron approaches Dorno, saying he needs to check everything that comes into the fortress. He asks if the merchant has anything suspicious, but Dorno denies it. Dorno even says if he did have something like that, he just pay an extra fee. Then Aaron notices a tattoo on his neck. Looking at the Karyage, Carter freaks out and tells his boss to look fast. They both share a bunch of slaughtered goats. The captain realizes they're in tribal condition, and at this right there, the maid and the cart are going to rot. He asks what Dorno plans to do with Altan, but Dorno just stares at him. Then he gives some flimsy excuse and hands over more money, and Aaron accepts it immediately without even a hint of shame. He lets the Karyage into the city. After getting through the inspection, Dorno tells the guards idiot and says he is going to turn this place into hell. Watching him leave, our hero wonders if Dorno likes his patches. Remembering Sir as Misagi, Aaron smiles, thinking Dorno should be charged for because intimates like this. You were either innocent or you got hanged at a tavern. Kyle can't believe it because Charlotte invited break on a death. The big guy says she asked him to go watch an execution together. Hearing that, Fermin gets insanely jealous. Manuel, our MC is just to let that these idiots scheduled a death at an execution seat. Getting even more annoyed with this medieval era break. Al happy, says she is planning to give Charlotte the fish bread his mom makes. Aaron can't believe it, and Fermin asks if the idiot is really going to give that crap to the girl. Just thinking about it makes Fermin poke. Well, Brick says there is nothing wrong with his mom as bad. Plus it was super popular back where his family is from. And Aaron asks if everyone in the store has terrible taste. He even says that bread is basically no different from bucket pop. Right there, Shark's underling shows up again, reciting the code. But gets shot though, with a punch to the face. She drags the bad guy out of there. Aaron says, in the end, it doesn't matter. And Brick should just behave him, while later, they reach an alley. Scar is still holding a hook axe just waiting for his friend. He asks if Aaron remembers their art. While Scar ruled the shadows, the guard would stay in the lake so to get her could take over the fortress of Khazad. Furious, Aaron asks if the idiot wants to die for calling him over for nothing, even insulting Scar as had. The captain snatches the accessory of the King of Shadows and tells their followers to do the same, and everyone obeys, yanking the bald guy by the air. The protagonist starts scolding the GTS whites for messing around with these stupid gamers. Scar tells the guard to listen, saying, the outsiders from before have been acting even stronger lately. And just like expected, the foreigners have been meeting every night in secret to plot some meeting. Aaron Yang says even harder, telling Scar to stay out of it because the guards will handle the situation. Then he adds that Baldi has been showing up at the carpentry workshop and his dad as well, looking for him. Hearing that, Scar and his group say goodbye to Aaron, then take off running. Our hero realizes something big is about to go down, so he decides to be careful. A while later, Huck knocks on the door of a little isolated house. The executioner, Dallas, and his son Ted welcome the captain, and the kid compliments his armor. Aaron hands Ted an apple to eat and takes him to say, "Thank you," while thinking, like always, that this house felt pretty intimidating. Dallas apologizes for calling our MC over, but Aaron says it as fine. The two of them drink tea and talk about how Aaron captured all 6 prisoners who are going to be executed. While Ted is amazed by the applause, the captain is surprised because the boys got a lot bigger. The MC hands over the advanced payment Nova and says she asked Dallas to show off his best skills at the event. Dallas just nods and says she is planning to take Ted to the execution, because the kid needs to get ready to take over the family business. After all, a farmer son grows up to be a farmer. So, an executioner son becomes an executioner. But the idea of passing on a job where you take people as slaves always made him feel awful. And it is because of that job that his mom ran away. And right then, the kid offers a place to both of them. The executioner thanks Aaron for treating them well and says he is sorry about what happened to Hans. Aaron replies that Onion can sin. So he tells Dallas to chop his head off if he ever becomes a criminal. The executioner agrees right away, and Ted says he did done for his dad, too. So, Dallas says goodbye to his friend until execution day. That night, a group is meeting up and one of them says it has been hard to do anything in secret because Scar has been watching the area. On top of that, Coulter, the human with the demon arm, got beaten in the attack outside the fortress, so it was time to start making moves. Dorno tells the guy to relax because there will be an execution in the city square in Evil. Days, with that opportunity, the heart of the Lady of Khazad-dûm will be teared. The villains agree with Lord Dorno, then as if that word over there is asleep or dead. They visual sleepy charter lining against a one, dozing off. On execution day in the city square of Khazad-dûm, kena uses her magic to chill aber, and when the drunk say it, they re-impressed and proceed to do. Kena also unlaunches her new bread, with strawberry jam served with wine for the town as people. Aaron S. group is nearby protecting her business. The greedy woman thanks the MC for the jam bread idea because it is bringing in a ton of customers. And the cold beer is super popular, too. The MC thinks she is basically using a marketing strategy where jam bread and wine go well with an execution. After all, there's a medieval idiot even deep bread in the condemned guy as blood. Kena actually Aaron suffered. Kena. And he says it as because I wanted a chop of cold beer. But she says that can't be the only reason, because it is rare for Aaron to show interest in Onion. Not knowing how to explain how. MC remembers the day he found a stray cat out in the rain. So, he says Kena reminded him of that kitten. She looks confused. But then Verman shows a piece of as sweetly reworking. There when the rest of the unit is off today. Aaron explains they got some income, so they reworking undercover. And Verman should report the TV says anything weird, that gets the face. Captain fired up, and the guard asks we only and pull them today. Lenfish Captain says break is out on a date with Charlotte, and Carter's offshoring somewhere here. A bit later, Aaron goes looking for Ted and finds him in front of a camp asking where he is there. Ted says he went to calm the ghost dorm because they were nervous. He tells the prisoners not to worry because his dad has already chopped off over 100 heads. So the criminals will leave this world without feeling any pain. And Aaron praises the kid for that attitude. The gang leader, the on or MC Beto, stands up furious, but Aaron mocks him because he can't say anything with his mud jacket. Then he says, Tim is up and it is Tim to lose his head. On the execution platform, the gang leader has his head resting without a shred of remorse. The executioner, Dallas, cleanly sliced the boy's head off. Everyone in the crowd cheers, basically betting in the criminal's ketchup, as they. Next victim is brought out. Aaron thinks executions back then were almost like a political festival. They were meant to let citizens bow of star and show of the king as power. In a flashback before the execution starts, Nova says this event is way more important than usual because the criminals Aaron captured earlier killed a noble from Charzon, and since the Lord was planning to alleviate that city, this execution was basically a diplomatic event, meaning nothing could go wrong. Back in the present, Aaron curses Nova on for putting that kind of pressure on him, but then he notices a weird figure in the crowd. When the hooded guy turns around, MC recognizes Dorno and wonders why he is there. Right then, an explosion goes off and all the civilians start freaking out. Suddenly, a bunch more explosions hit nearby and as chaos takes over. Aaron realizes they're under attack. A blasted slot of classic full puts, sending him fleeing and making the guards panic. Aaron laughs at the mess until he remembers his group is in charge of security. So if the king gets crowded, his head is going to roll. And in the middle of all that, Dallas executes another criminal. The MC compliments the family man for still working even in this situation. But Dallas says he is just doing his job. Saying all this, Aaron gets fired up and decides to do his part, though, heading straight toward the flames to do his duty as captain of the guard. Civilians kept running in panic with no idea what is going on. Famine and poultry total everyone down, but it is still a disaster. And in the middle of it, two kids are crying, looking for their family. Brick and Charlotte help with the evacuation, though, while Hannah tries to calm Aaron reaches his group carrying the two kids who were crying earlier. Hans came to Cal and asks if they saw anyone suspicious wearing a hood. Cal and Brick say no, but as Aaron stands the crowd more cheerfully, he spots something. Dorno is carrying Lady Vivian, and that is when Aaron realizes he is a target of the attacks. He immediately orders guard unit 4 to follow him because they're going after a criminal, and if they find, they'll be the next honest under the guillotine. So, hearing that, everyone in the group starts panicking beneath Von Verman and Aaron are searching together for the criminal. When Vice Captain points out they couldn't even catch Hans, just some regular guy. But Aaron shoots him down for being so negative. Then they find blood full pits, alive and celebrate until they come across one of his knees dead because of the explosion. Aaron keeps walking, commenting that those knees were never reliable. In an alley, he finds another. One of those useless guys, badly injured, been leaning against the wall. Ben is happy to share Aaron, but immediately feels embarrassed to be in that state. While pouring a healing potion on him, the MC jokes, asking if Ben is really acting at all since the guy gets beat up so easily. Nick admits he let his guard down, and because of that, he got attacked by one of the criminals, Adar. Maybe he even warns Aaron to be careful, because there is a traitor in the guard. Just then, they hear a scream, and Verman recognizes the voice as Cal S. Nearby, the pretty boy is yelling after, getting whacked by a big blue muscle head. Confused, the blue guy asks what Cal S there is because he is acting way too dramatic for someone who barely got punched. Cal with some evil plan ill man tells the enemy to wait, then Owl gets smashed and Cal realizes his plan worked. Aaron shows up and grabs the blue monster by the neck, complaining that the wall collapsed from. Just on a hit, the creature starts choking and wonders what this monster is with such insane great strength. The MC asks why the monster is so weak compared to the demon he fought outside. For Trajan, the stranger just thinks that he is going to die, but Aaron lets him go. The blue guy starts catching his breath while our MC threatens him and tells him to spill everything or he'll torture him. But before Aaron can have fun, the monster blurts out that the dark mage is the only being it and that bastard is after Vivian S. Heard, Aaron is shocked at that. Monster talks so fast and his group starts logging, the monster keeps going. He even gives them the location of their base and says the mage made ideal with a demon using black magic hour. and she asks why the villain needs the lady is here. But the monster says he doesn't take no and begs for his life, saying how honest and obedient the guy was. Aaron decides to spare him, and tells his group to take him away. The big blue guy thanks them, walks off, and chats with the MCS group. Putting the pieces together, Aaron realizes Dorna was the dark magie, but what he wanted Vivian was still a mystery. Just then, someone steps out of the shadows, telling for the captain. Carter says the night is beautiful, and Aaron asks if they could just walk out. Then he tells the idiot to sleep less because it was basically turning into a disaster. Carter says he can't control it and asks if his captain knows how painful it is to not be able to sleep. He says that when he is sleepy, he doesn't even feel awake, like he is stuck in a dream with fog over his mind. Then he quickly pulls out a sword and tries to finish off his captain. The MC manages to block with his own sword. Without any remorse, Carter tells Aaron good next and says he is going to put him into a dream he'll never wake up from. Carter explains that when he was young, a famine hit his village with nothing to add. The villagers survived on tree roots. Some optimistic also at rats and cockroaches. Because of the hunger, he and his brother got really skinny, but one day, Matt suddenly showed up on the table, and after a long time, his family finally had a proper meal. Everyone in his family enjoyed it except his brother, because he was the one who said as the food. Then we say, Carter is father doing something cruel. Back in the faith, Carter says that since that day, I hasn't slept well a single night. He always lay there thinking he might end up with the same fate as his poor little brother. While defending himself from his ex-friend's attacks, Aaron says he has heard that story before. He tries to counterattack, but misses. After backing off, Carter says he is way stronger now because he finally slept well after so long. And it was all thanks to the sweats Dorno gave him, so the guy starts giving off a purple energy. Aaron realizes this idiot got power from the devil and boosted his stats. On top of that, Sleepyhead was always naturally talented at fighting, even without training. And Carter charges at his captain, Ur MC Dodges, basically showing he is stronger thanks to experience. When Carter says his captain casually dodged that heavy hit, he gets pissed. His hand starts turning into a demonic shape, and he tries to punch the MC. The captain dodges to the side and goes for a counter, saying he gets it. He also had trouble sleeping, so he forgives his friend. Then he stops his sword on the other side of Carter's chest and asks the sleepy guy to forgive him, too. Spitting up blood, therefore, exhausted Carter says his little brother calling to him. He says he is sleepy, then rests his head on his captain's shoulder. Aaron tells him to sleep well and says he'll sing him his last and best lullaby. Another explosion goes off, taking out even more guards, and then we shall know with Vivian. Villain used the same as Capro Tehans used to get out of the city. Outside, the merchant celebrates, saying all the effort was worth it, because he got the only loved bimanat, so now all he had to do was take her here and consume it. Before he can keep going, someone approaches. Aaron asks how the black mag managed to find the small tunnel. He tracks his nucleus and says he has got a few questions. Dorno mocks him, asking who Aaron thinks he is because he is not acne. Just a rocky guard captain, then the dark mag summons a wolf and asks like made of shadows. They long to beat Aaron, but the slices them in half. The dark mag summons a wolf's head again, and the black shape manages to beat Aaron's arm. Even after cutting the monster in two, the MC realizes he is been infected with a magical curse. His body feels heavy and it hurts to move, so it the bidang rose if this fight drags on. Dorno acknowledges his enemy's skills, but asks if he can handle Lord Quentel's Legion of Shadows, and the wolf head and the snake appear again. Aaron says that this petting zoo is way too small to be called a legion, which pisses the merchant off. The snake starts charging black energy in its mouth. The MC thinks that if he wanted to follow the rules, he should capture this bastard alive. But Dorno tricked his friend and sold him to the monster, so he can't forgive him, as he moves into attack the dark snake. The captain says the black mag is sentenced to immediate execution. Iron Slices struck a bunch of creatures made of darkness with his sword. Dorno starts putting some nonsense and casts a spell at Iron. All of a sudden, this weird purple creature shows up and wraps around the MC's body to hold him in place. Watching his enemy, Dorno says this triple charge is a pain event for Nuggets. But before the creature can use its hand to crush the captain, the guy slices it up basically, telling his opponent to stop talking. Crab and clearly fed up, the merchant pulls a vial out from under his hook. He throws it on the ground and it shatters with a finger inside. A dragon-like creature appears and Dorno explains it was a demonic beast. The ugly monster tries to smack Aaron with its stain, but misses. Dorno kept smoking the MC for being just a guard captain. Ignoring him, Aaron climbs up the monster as tail and tries to hit it with his sword, but he realizes he can't even stretch the thing. Normal methods won't work, so the captain launches himself straight at the monster's mouth and ends up getting swallowed. The dark mage starts laughing when he sees the idiot jump into the monster's mouth or his own. Inside the dragon, Aaron wonders why Dorno is laughing. He decides to ignore it and tells the demon in his chest to come out the wakes up, asking if it was being killed. Aaron makes fun of it for going quit after showing its powers, then asks it to start again. The creature says the captain really is a foolish human, but interesting. And Aaron's sword starts getting wrapped in an aura. It says it'll lend him its power, but wants something in return from no one. It doesn't want to be called ugly names anymore. Even though it doesn't know what the words meant, it finds them unpleasant. Aaron agrees. Aaron's whole body starts tingling like he just got struck by lightning and his sword shines again. From inside the monster, a bunch of blue attacks start bursting out through the extra. Seeing aura being used, Dorno gets confused, refusing to believe it while he is wondering if Aaron is acne. The man bursts out of the red monster. The creature collapses, defeated. Then Dorno asks who the captain really is and if he was sent by the imperial family. MC, practically radiating hatred, walks toward him. He takes his head clean off, saying he is just a fortress guard. Later, as he puts his sword away, thinking everything is finally quit, he tells Carter to sleep well. Dorno as a fair head starts speaking unknown words and forms a magic circle. Aaron realizes it as a spell that activates. After that, he rushes to heaven and grabs her to protect her. A powerful energy hits Dorno. While holding Viven, Aaron sees a colossal red horn demon walking toward him and realizes he is totally screwed. Aaron takes off running to try to save himself, but the giant monster stomps the ground, everything shakes and the MC drops to his knees. With no choice, the hero draws his sword, but suddenly a voice can be heard. The giant demon gets hit by a massive strike and then whistles to people shooting and looking for Viven. The true aura users charge the red monster and attack it. Hidden behind a tree, the MC recognizes them. One is a female knight, and the other is the Inquisitor. Viven starts walking up and gets confused when she sees the guard. Afraid she is the kidnapper, Aaron knocks the girl out with a punch. He lies her on the ground and covers her face with a cloth because of the cold. Then he says goodbye to Viven and laughs. After the battle ends, the red monster has been defeated. The green haired knight wonders where Viven is. The sun starts to rise, and with the light, the Inquisitor manages to find where the girl is. They both run over to Viven, sell the cloth covering her face, and wonder if she is dead at the Rabbit Tavern. Blake is furious because Unit 4 got blamed for letting a dark mage sleep past the gate. Aaron explains it has been a week since the dark mage attack. The Lord Wow flew through the sky like a bird somehow got out without a scratch, and his daughter Viven was brought back. Alive so the whole situation basically ended, also because Aaron lied in his report. Everyone thinks Carter died in battle fighting a demon. Because of that, Carter's family got money from the government. Cal and Paul are set just wishing Carter a good sleep. Blake holds back tears and saying that all MC rises a toast in honor of the sleepyhead, as he takes a swig of the nasty drain. Aaron thinks that at last Carter kept his honor. Fairman warns everyone that a new guard is coming to replace Carter in Unit 4. Before he can say more, someone opens the tavern door. Dylan Duasel introduces himself as the new recruit for Unit 4 of the Guard, saying that Aaron tells Carter to come back immediately. The kid gets excited seeing his big brother, Paul, and Brick Sam too. Like the new guy, Dylan starts lying about having found the zombies. And when Kyle hears this locomotive, he says he just shoot out. Aaron asks how an idiot like that Evan got recruited, and Hannah wonders the same thing, still annoyed about the other day. The girl slams a mop on the table and stares Dylan down. Before she leaves, Dylan asks the waitress to wine. He apologizes 1,000 times for what happened the other day, saying he only did it because all mercenaries act like that. Hannah says it as Finn while pointing a crossbow at his forehead and saying she is used to dealing with idiots in this job. But if he ever pulls something like that again, he is getting a hole in his head and that scares even Aaron. Or MC Charles Duasel over and hands him a sword, warns Dylan that he is part of Mid 4 of the Outer Guard now and he better work hard or he'll kill him. The red gets emotional receiving the gift and agrees with his new master. Dylan, the new member of Unit 4, had no idea yet, but was going to seriously regret joining this team of lunatics. At the city gate, Aaron is slapping a merchant and it freaks Dylan out. The MC yells at the seller for falling asleep during the trip, so the poor guy just left confused. The guard tells Duasel to watch and do the same because after the demon incident, inspections got stricter. Dylan asks if stealing coins from merchants and even hitting them to check if the demons is really a guard's job. Clearly loving it, the dad starts intimidating some old guy to get coins. Watching that, Aaron says this idiot was born to threaten and rob people. And honestly, that is good. Coins will come in without them even having to try. Then this hoodie guard starts arguing with Dylan. The guy complains that the redhead still wants to inspect the wagon even after saying the Fenner family symbol. Dylan says he doesn't care and tells him to just pay up already, but the idiot gets hit in the neck by MC and the captain apologizes for the newbie's behavior. While inspecting the wagon to guy, he says it is only carrying soldiers, no nobles. So he says the Lord ordered every wagon inspected, no matter what family it belongs to. And that the soldier's attitude was insulting to the king. Then Aaron and Dylan start intimidating the poor soldier, accusing him of offending the king. The guy wonders how they switched up so fast just because they found out there were nobles in there. He apologizes and offers coins to settle it and Aaron accepts. The MC ends the conversation, but before leaving, he gives the soldier a solid smack on the head. On the other hand, the soldier turns Aaron out and gets furious over the humiliation. After Kayla says the church is looking for him, the captain puts on his armor and goes there. He is irritated because he doesn't want to battle with a demon inside him. Plus, there is a chance he is already been found out. And right then, the Inquisitor shows up, opening the door. Aaron jumps, but then Father Brian appears and greets him. As the MC recovers from the scar, the priest asks if the boy found a demon because Joanna told him everything and she clearly saw Aaron protecting Vivian from the giant. The guard relaxes since Joanna didn't tell him using his demon powers. The priest praises his courage even though he is just a guard and says he prepared a reward. Remembering his first reward, the guard starts laughing and sucking up to the priest, but Blaine gives him a tacky handkerchief and the title of honorary monk. Awkwardly, Aaron thanks him but thinks what he really wanted was money. Blaine also asks the captain to guide Joanna around since she wants to look around the fortress. He says goodbye and laughs and Aaron is left pissed off, cursing him out. Looking at Joanna, the captain thinks that if she finds out about the demon, she'll crack his skull with all hit. The MC asks if the Inquisitor is hungry and suggests going to a restaurant. A little later, there is a fishbone in front of Joanna, and Aaron thinks he is about to make her never want to see him again. As the reminded at Brick's mom's restaurant, Joanna takes a small bite and freezes in shock for a moment. Aaron laughs to himself and apologizes for doing it. Says he can't walk around with an Inquisitor while there is a demon inside his body. With a fish in her mouth, Joanna asks if the guard isn't going to act. Intimidated, the guy starts yelling that nasty slope even though they're basically forcing it down. The two of them at the rotten foot. After they finish, Aaron thinks this woman is too cast nails for managing to handle. That, but then Brick's mom shows up with another fishbone, and Joanna bolts out of there. The waitress asks Sui, and Aaron just makes up some lame excuse. While he is celebrating his victory, the girl brings him another fishbone for free. She says she got all emotional saying the guard ate the whole other bowl, so she brewed more. Staring at the food, Aaron says they rather have taken a hit to the head from Joanna. Cal shows up and asks Sui Aaron is more cakes looking fancier and fancier. The MC explains that some shops gave him discounts when they saw his honorary monk scarf. Then he turns to meet another fishbone. Brick's mom offers him. Verman explains that some soldiers from Finland are going to be working with them, and if there is a infecting, it could lead to punishment. Aaron says he is a playful guy, so they won't take the infected riot. As the Finner family is guard shows up, furious, the blondie guy starts pushing Aaron out over the earlier humiliation, and the guard says if only one said hit, then it doesn't take on as a fake. Annoyed, the guard keeps insulting Aaron. Cal tells his captain to calm down and not cause a scan, because an honorary monk can't be doing stuff like that. But pushing his look, the thinner soldier asks if Aaron is scared, poking his head and telling him to know his place. Honorary monk snaps and lands a solid punch on the loud mouth. Then he says it still wasn't the effect since only one person attacked, saying that Cal starts arguing with his captain. Well. Later, the soldier wakes up, realizing he got knocked out. He says Aaron is way too strong for a regular guard captain, and starts making excuses for why he got beat up, while the MC is going around slapping the merchants. Cal introduces himself to Gilhim and the guard does the same, apologizing for earlier. Then he asks why Aaron is hitting the merchant. Cal explains that according to the captain, it is to identify demons, but it looks more like he is just blowing off stress. But then after getting slapped, one of the merchant reveals as a demon and as so a human dares. Do that, Cal and Gilhim are shocked to see Aaron's method actually work. Even the MC didn't expect it to work. Luckily, that demon is just a lackey, but another one of those monsters, showing up only a week after the attack causes a huge commotion. And that day, Aaron says the strongest people in Cheshire all gathered in on the place. William the Knight and Joanna Evel. After the demon gets beaten up by the MC, Joanna doesn't spare him, sending him off to meet the devil personally. At the Rabbit Tavern, Dylan welcomes his big bro, leaving Aaron confused, saying, "The Wassail there." Hannah shows up giving the red orders and explains that since the Wassail came to apologize, he asked for his help to forgive him after the inn is packed with customers. Because of the cold bear, after taking a sip of that wicked stuff, the MC thinks, one year. Cold bear is awesome, but Kana is really good at magic and using her like average is kind of awasti. And even though magic box are expensive, it is time to start upgrading the guild. Some here else wisa aman and a boy riding in a wagon howling a bunch of one of the idiot. Complains the wagon is shaking and tells the kid not to do anything stupid before they get into the fortress. Then he complains about their boss sending them on to the middle of nowhere to meet someone. His bald friend tells everyone to shut up and watch their faces, especially Jacob. The idiots kept logging and talking crap. The little boy tells Lebby they only let test guys come because of threats, but if they get caught in the inspection, they risk crowd too. Lebby tells Furis to relax and says the Khazardic fortress only does half-fast inspections. TLL just pay a few coins and on steering inside. TLL be safe. Paul and Dylan along with a few other guards are watching the front gate. The blondie guy recognizes Lebby and starts talking to him. Lebby thinks it as well there are so many guards, but he is relieved not to sell Aaron. He sucks up to Paul and hands him a few silver coins, and the blondie thanks him. Dylan tells his brother Paul to wait, because there are 3 more guards with them, so they should get more money. Paul says he is fine with that amount, but since he is scared, Lebby offers more coins. Thinking has no idea what those guys behind them will do if he fails to get through. Somewhere else, Kel tells Aaron that after the captain managed to identify a demon, the inspection method changed by the commander's orders. Everyone in the vehicle now has to get out and go through an individual search. And if anyone looks suspicious, they are supposed to get taken down with a clue. So, Dylan does exactly that to table jatuh process at him while Aaron asks what kind of stupid method that is since he himself was doing anjing, just making merchants with his hand. When Dylan says an of the comment toward him, he yells a warning to everyone. Those guys were demons, right there. Jacob and the other dogs get finished off by the other guards, one of them, before Dean realizes Jacket, the bad guy, had only passed out. So the mission to capture that Maggie would fall on him. Back with Aaron, the guy says go beautiful, saying he is going to upgrade the fragile. Can watches Aaron drinking a beer, and with agreeing, the guard tells her over. He asks what spells the girl can do right now, and she says she can move these cold things. Don't, and she also knows clairvoyance. Aaron asks how she learned magic, and Kena says it was with a guy who was an expert in romance. That is what they called himself. The MC gets confused, wondering if Kena can learn magic just by reading books. Afraid of being dumped, Kena says that besides learning fast, she can also wash the dishes. In a flashback, Aaron asks a blonde woman how he can learn magic, but she says someone brainless like Aaron would never learn. Back in the present, Kena begs not to be abandoned, and the MC tells her to stop talking nonsense. He won't do that. He asks if the little girl really wants to learn more, and she immediately agrees. Asking for orders, Aaron realizes this girl has been heavily influenced by Dylan. Then Kena says she has something to tell him, but at that moment, Dylan crashes into the door. Barging in and calling for his brother, he then says all the captured criminals escaped. One of the captured goes bad. Trojan broke the wooden handcuffs and managed to flee, taking with several soldiers in the process, and on top of that, he was the one who rocked this criminal out, and the situation was really bad. The guard captain ordered everyone to gather at headquarters. Before leaving, Aaron tells Hannah to lock the doors because it is dangerous and tells Kena to keep watch with her clairvoyance, saying Dylan just standing there. The MC grabs him by the ear and drags the vessel along. At headquarters, Manuel is chewing everyone on for letting the criminals escape. On soldier says that is why they sold us Aaron handcuffs, but Manuel tells him to shoot up because they're expensive. Aaron and another soldier friend talk about the criminals. The hired man explains the first escaper was a well-known guy in Charzon. Hearing that, the MC is surprised the vessel managed to knock out someone like that. Furus shows up, calling Aaron as Jerry Muscles, and asking if he is the chief of the guard. Our hero squeezes the kid as head and tells him to respect adult. The lad asks them to release his teacher because he didn't take the ending wrong, so the man explains that the one who brought the guy from Charzon was Lebby. While Fur says they were being threatened, Aaron recognizes that name. He apologizes to the kid, but say, "Can't let a fugitive get away with it." In the alleys, we see some fugitives running, and one of them complains about how persistent the guards are. Lebby in the rain wonders why those guys dragged him along. He wasn't even planning to escape. One of the bandits says the guards in Kasserik found what they can't take ahead to the head with gold. Reacting, suddenly, all the criminals here are whistle and start running the other way, but they get ambushed and run straight into a Hugigui. Even fetching a guard, one of the bandits charges to attack, but he gets grabbed by the neck and slammed into the ground. Lebby recognizes the guy as the tyrant Aaron. Then another random tries to smack Aaron in the head with a club, but Aaron dodges and takes the idiot down. Terrified, Lebby backs up, thinking how he had to run into this devilish human wreck when he is a fugitive. Afraid of Dean, he drops to the ground, begging Aaron to stay back, but the MC just lifts him up with the collar, asking why the idiot is screaming and saying that Lebby student had been looking for him. The kid shows up here, when the man says his student, runs up to him and hugs him. Captain of the guard, Aaron, was brutal and rude, but he wasn't actually a bad guy. So, Wormse asks the old man where the first fugitive was and finds out he was in District 5, right here. The area where the rabbit tavern was, and Jack was near the place. All of a sudden, the bald guy is forced to defend himself from an attack. Dylan shows up with phone and scare and says that bald guy was the criminal. Star says he can't just stand here watching a criminal walking around in his area. Since this was the shadow of the Kashyyyk Fortress, the guy tries to attack Jack with his sickle. The bald guy actually dodges and slashes the enemy's shoulder with his sword. That freaks Dylan out, and Paul realizes this guy is strong. Jack says he is looking for a purple-haired girl. Then asks if she is Terry. Evan Hurtus tries to strike back, but gets cut again. Tries to jump in and lands a punch on Jack, but the guy is weak. He spins and calmly puts his sword against the blonde guy's chest. After taking that hit, tells Dylan to run right now. Getting ready to run, the Radiant thinks the guy is way too strong, and the fight is already lost. Then he is grateful Pete treated him like a brothel, even though he is a mercenary. Dylan apologizes to his blonde friend, but says he still wants to live, so he won't leave him behind. Instead, Dylan curses Jack out and says he beat him and that all of Jack's brothers got squared disappears and that the criminals are clean. The bandit gets furious and tries to stop Dylan with his sword. Idiot manages to jump forward and dodge, but ends up slamming into the ground. On the ground, Dylan asks where Aaron is since he always shows up out of nowhere. Even if his life sucked, he still wanted to keep living and find some reason to. So the redhead starts yelling and pushing out his big bro for not being there. Aaron hears him and shows up, smacking Jack on the forehead, saying, "He's captain." The mercenary starts crying from emotion, but annoyed. Wormse asks what the idiot just called him. Hearing that, Dylan drops to the floor, pretending he did, with Pisastay, captain of Evanmore. Jack gets up saying it looks like Dylan, and Aaron really want to die. Wormse asks if he is the criminal who got beat up by that wasn't, then he says there is something on his shoulder. When the bald guy looks, the snaky MC tries to hit him with his sword. The bandit blocks and charges at the guard. Aaron lands 2 punches on Jack, grabs him by the collar, and throws him away, looking at his enemy. After that, Wormse asks how someone like that got beat by Dylan. Then he asks why the criminal is crawling around this room, and Jack says he is looking for someone, a short purple-haired girl. Aaron remembers that when her stood kena, she was with current bandits, but sending someone like Jack over a simple mic was weird. Saying Aaron's reaction, Jack says he'll make the guard reveal where kena is. But then I felt something go from one side of his chest to the other. We said Dylan using his sword to give the criminal a tiny little shoot. Before dying, Jack promises he'll finish off the wassail. As the rain falls on the criminal's body, Aaron just wants a beer. On another day, Dylan is already lying and exaggerating the story about his vehicle. The idiot tells me how he finished Jack. Right there, Aaron comes into the room to check on Paul. He brings a basket of food and asks how everyone is doing. When P opens the basket, he finds fish bread. One of the soldiers, all wrapped up in bandages, complains, but says he can't eat because he is fasting. Hearing that, the blonde guy says there was a bit life for the captain at the Rabbit Tavern. Furus was praising kena, but when she says Aaron, the girl quickly serves him a cold beer and he thanks her. The captain sits down and asks if Kena has dreams for the future, something she wants to do or become. Kena answers that she just wants to live. Aaron pats her head and says she'll try his best and she should do the same. She starts thinking about it. Sur tries to start a conversation again, and remembering Dylan is tip. Kena bonks the boy on the head. A vendor is selling out potion preachers and tells Aaron to get lost if he is not going to buy anything. The MC holds himself back so he doesn't punch this idiot. A little bald guy asks Ketup why he is charging the normal price for an honorary month. He points out that the guard got that title straight from Blaine and Jonah. Kate, even though he doesn't want to, drops the price to 50 silver coins. When Aaron says the price get to almost in half, his eyes light up. He leaves thanking in for the help since thanks to the monk. He got a discount, then asks Rigor to excuse cut off as attitude because they were boys since an important figure was going to visit the church. Then he tells the captain to be careful on his way home. After that visit, Aaron says he realized there were actually decent people in that church. And when he looks to the city, he says Joanna getting chased will be herself. Aaron wonders why she is there, but then Joanna suddenly stands up. The Inquisitor offers the captain a piece of cheese, and after he accepts, she walks off with a smile. While eating the cheese, the MC thinks that woman really wasn't normal. Back at headquarters, Manuel is talking about the criminals escaping and how the Fenner family got pissed. So because of that, next month there won't be a days off. All the soldiers get annoyed and start calling Manuel a demon for being so cruel. Old soldier thinks the punishment is way too harsh. Then he tells Aaron that the oldest son of the Fenner family will be visiting them soon. Agnes candidate trained at the Imperial School, but Wu never actually began Agnes. Aaron gets irritated because some important church person was coming and now the Fenner family is Sonto, and that was going to cause a lot of commotion. Manuel, trying to save his own skin, says Nova is looking for Aaron. When he gets to her room, she is weirdly nice. She calmly explains how a door works and even teaches him how to use a door knob, finally showing her anger. She asks if Aaron even knows how to use doors, because he goes around destroying everything and they already knocked down a bunch of walls instead of just using doors. Aaron lies, saying that if he'd been a little late, kids would have gotten hurt. Nova Sigan explains that the cost for everything Aaron destroyed were taken out of his reward, so they would only get only silver coin. The MC stares at the coin and quickly gives it back to Nova, telling her to go buy something for herself or say they stuck in that room. Nova curses him out, and he immediately runs off after getting chased out. Aaron and Cal head out to patrol the city. Aaron says he likes searching Chariages because it makes him more money, but patrolling is fun, too, because the idiots in this area are always causing trouble, like it is to Gus fighting. The MC tells him to calm down and says whoever wins the fight is the one who is raised well. They beating the crap out of each other. Aaron starts beating with Cal on who win. Some kids start running. Charity will get arrested by Aaron. He says things are pretty peaceful until he has someone yelling. A girl is pissed, asking some ugly dudes what took her jewelry. Aaron shows up to help and she says to Stray stole her family's jewelry, the bald goblin. Looking good Miss Evil, the girl with the rabbit tattoo says she didn't the anything either. And the skinny blondie guy says he doesn't even know where he is there. Cal tells his captain not to take on such an annoying, boring job, but it is too late. And Aaron says the culprit is definitely one of the three ugly guys. Then he asks the redhead when the crime happened, and she gives some details. And she is sure it was on off-cam because they live near her house. So Aaron asks what each of them was doing from last night until morning. The goblin guy says last night I finished organizing his high and went to sleep without dinner. Aaron thinks that is suspicious since dinner was one of the few forms of entertainment back then. The crooked girl refuses total, saying she doesn't want to share personal stuff. Plus, she has a valuable silver mirror at home, so she doesn't need some lame jewelry. Aaron finds that suspicious. Tom, the pal guy says he was only out of the house because that woman forced him to. The victim accuses the blonde guy, saying she doesn't recognize him from anywhere. So she thinks he is suspicious, with him no other choice. Aaron decides to use his last resort. He tells all three of them to show him their houses. Manuel, the future MC says he never imagined taking on this boring case would lead to that kind of result. When Cal says the suspects refusing to show their houses, he starts roasting them. He even kicks the ugly guys to make them move faster. Aaron, not teaching how suspicious theory acting, gets excited because he finally found something interesting to do. Art but thought Lady S. Aaron says she was telling, she really did have a silver mirror. Annoyed, she snaps that she doesn't need some ship totally, so there is no way she is the thief. But Aaron still thinks it is weird, because the house is basically empty. And besides the mirror, the only other things in there are men as clothes. Cal starts complaining about the smell in the house and Aaron realizes the truth. That woman was getting the size that as a serious crime and shared. But thought Lady tries to bribe the captain with a piece of cheese. Aaron likes the food, so he decides to let it slide and ignore the crime. At the pale blondie guy's house, Cal and his captain only find a few books. While looking through them, Aaron finds a bracelet and steals it, hoping the blondie guy won't notice, but then they hear a noise and Cal asks what that was. So the captain makes up some lame excuse, then he asks the demon why randomly burped. When Cal says the bracelet, roasts Aaron Estes and Aaron complains back at his friend. The pale blondie guy says, the MC can keep the bracelet, and the greedy captain declares him innocent as a thank you. On the way to the goblin's house, Aaron is actually excited about the patrol. Cal says that since they other two weren't guilty, there is a big chance the criminal is the goblin. Aaron tells him not to worry yet, he may be goofy, but he is doing a serious investigation, and he is going to search every part of the goblin's house, but when they get there, Aaron and Cal freak out. They find a majestic horse dressed like a princess. The goblin apologizes to the house for being late, and asks if it wants his soap. Annoyed, Aaron kicks the goblin's boot and sends him fleeing. As they left with Cal comments that the goblin is actually a famous horse breeder, back here. But City, the MC wonders what the real culprit was in the end. Then the lady from earlier shows up saying she found her cutlery in the straw. That result leaves Aaron and Cal totally crushed, and they head back into town at the Rabbit Tavern. Aaron is complaining about how he was the team on a false accusation. Kenna brings him a mug of beer and looks excited about something. Aaron is confused, but when he looks at the jug, he says there is to be a recipe like flowers. Proudly the little Magician she worked really hard on it, and the guard congratulates her, but he is also thinking like, what is the point of petty each and beer? Saying how happy she is, Aaron decides not to ruin the moment while thinking he needs to give her that magic book one for some reason. Kenna starts staring at the guard's new bracelet, so the captain asks if she wants it, and embarrassed, she says yes. Aaron gives her the bracelet, and she gets super happy. He thinks the bracelet is really pretty, and that Palgui made actually be a decent dude. So, he decides she'll buy him a fishbone, but they wish the blondie guy looking confused, annoyed. The blondie guy is complaining about coming to this place full of ignorance and barbarians. Just imagining that some poor guy grabbed the collar of the mag from the white magic tower makes him mad, and on top of that, that brute also broke into his house. When Cal and Aaron were investigating his place, the Palgui thinks he has a spell to turn his magic books into normal books luhen. He says Aaron touched his bracelet, he panics inside. Angry, the blondie guy says someone like Aaron shouldn't touch that object, and then he casts a spell, but nothing happens, and the captain can still use the bracelet, saying his magic get ignored. The blondie guy wonders how someone with an aura managed to stop his spell. Back to the present, the Palgui wonders what that man really is, but he decides to calm down so he does the slip and reveal his identity. After all, his only mission is to investigate the one who is loved by Mana. At the city gate, Drake asks his captain why Fender soldiers are keeping their distance from them. Aaron jokes that those guys probably got beat up by someone in a tavern. Then a chariot approaches. Aaron recognizes it as a noble S. Chariot and wonders if Fender's oldest son is in city. As it passes, all the soldiers bow. A young man with long white hair smiles as he goes by Aaron. The captain is annoyed saying that noble flee past at full speed without even stopping. But then another chariot comes up, which confuses him. The chariot stops, and Aaron asks where they came from. A little boy named Sean says he came from Carson and introduces himself as a city administrator. After talking for a while longer, Sean finally gets permission to go in and thanks them for it. Drake complains that Why two mine wagons are showing up today and Aaron tells the idiot to shoot up or he'll just attract. Even more, great then, another chariot arrives, with hired religious guy steps out and he clearly knows Aaron, the temporary monk realizes the guy is the church as abbot and greets him. Saying that, the religious man corrects the way Aaron greeted him, then he says the captain really is a man of fire and that is why he wants to talk to him later. Blake saying all these important people coming in comments that things are about to get hectic and Aaron agrees, pauhal later. Nova shows up with Sonya, Nichols for the MC. When he says her outside his affected, the guy jokes Aaron and asks why she is there. Nova tells him to hand it over, so Aaron throws a sack on the broom. Turns out it is the head of the chosen criminals inside, and that freaks Sean out. The kid starts throwing up and at the same time tries to talk about Aaron as reward. After a bit, he asks Aaron to just leave the sector and apologizes for not being able to help because he has a weak stomach. Then he says he is a relief. Jack got taught because the guy was really well clothed and the organization he is involved with is a huge problem in Karzizan. Aaron remembers Jack was after Connor, so he wonders if he'll send someone else there too. On so he finishes of his word he asks what the best restaurant in town is. The captain decides not to recommend the fish bread, so he says it as Hasan Bakery in District 3. So the two of them go there together, and in his head, Aaron is clearly trying to learn more about the organization going after Kana. The bad owner of the bakery serves them the shop as mindism, a cheesecake. Then he starts hyping up his own food like crazy, while eating, she says Caesar Dick was as bad as he heard. He explains that because of the lone wolf, Tarzan was in chaos and people were more aggressive. Lone wolf was one of Tarzan's three organizations, the other two were Frozen Dagger and Fluffy Rabbit. Jack was basically a hero the ending guy for the lone wolf guild. So Aaron asks who the leader is. She says it is a guy named Philip, the bastard son of some noble family who got banished after failing to poison his older brother. The creepiest thing about him was how possessive he was one day. Members of the Dagger Guild went to one of Philip's taverns and took a decorative sword from there. Even though it was just some simple thing, Philip took it as an insult and got the dagger. But in a total bloodbath, Aaron realizes the guy really is like a wolf. On the habitats, he doesn't let go. Philip probably saw Kana as his property, but he probably hadn't realized he called the if he did the wrong thing, so Aaron planned to visit him someday. And a 3-day business trip to Tarzan's soul golden trick. Later, Sean is packing his stuff to go back to Tarzan, and Nova is going to. Aaron asks to come with her, which makes her suspicious. But he just says he has things to take care of in the city. Nova decides to let him come as long as he has Manuel's permission. And Aaron says he does. One of the guards asks if Nova is really taking the captain of the guard with her, and she says either way, the guards were going with her, and instead of messing up the whole guard formation, it is easier to just bring Aaron. The guard still thinks it is weird that Aaron suddenly volunteered. Nova just says that is exactly why everyone calls Aaron Aton. Man, she remembers when she was about to give Aaron a high position in the guard, but he refused, saying that for us to back like him, captain of the guard was known. Nova realized that if she tried to put a lash on him, she would lose him, so she didn't need to understand Aaron's motivations. She just guided him to stay in the Castle Fortress for a long time. Back to the present, wagon heads toward Tarzan, and during the trip, the MC is already starting to get on Nova's nervous. She offers Nova a piece of cheesecake, but she angrily refuses. Confused, the boy says hey, called her by her nickname like Aaron told him to, but Nova still seemed irritated. So, the slick little MC tells she to call her Orange. After the kid does it, Nova gets even more annoyed and ignores him. A while later, the three of them arrive in the beautiful city of Karzan. Nova says she doesn't need company while she is working, so Aaron can go do his own thing. But the woman immediately tells the idiot not to go starting trouble around here, because that place was die. Kaserak. Aaron just ignores her, size Gurbe, and lives with Xian, they orange hired girl. Notices Aaron didn't actually say anything about causing problem, so she hopes she just misheard. Or empty, already far from there. Ask Xia to guide him through the city, that gets the administrator excited, asking if he should show him the local restaurants, but the captain says no. And then he'll check out restaurants next time because Tony Kelly is going to finish off the leader of the Lone Wolf Guild. Hearing that Levasan confused and shocked for a moment. Thinking it is a joke, the kid says he doesn't care. Getting rid of someone like that would be great for the city. Aaron doesn't realize there is a misunderstanding and is just happy Xia agrees with him. Sean keeps thinking it is a joke, so he decides to share how far Aaron will take it relates to. Guard to the Kutibun Guild as bas and there are a bunch of buff whiskers with angry faces. I figures that Guild is all about brute force and that if Aaron admitted it was a joke, they drag him away from there, but then the kid catches a strong smell of sweat and ends up laughing. Grumbling, the muscleheads hear that, feel insulted, and get pissed, no, at the drunken widow as. Tavan Rumbi Ichi Dagger Guild, when they said a city administrator. All the women get happy and start jumping all over him. At night, while Sam is drunk, Aaron says he has finished his preparations and they are going to the Lucky Gambler Casino. Confused, the boy wonders how far this guy is going to take this job. Then he says it is a casino run by the Lone Wolf Guild. Aaron replies that he doesn't care he needs to destroy the wolf as then taller out the pack ladder. Sam remembers the captain talking about taking out the Lone Wolf Guild ladder and that is when it hits him deep. It's not a joke. Aaron really plans to kill Philip, the demon of Tarzan. That scares him and Captain Aaron tells him to hurry up and show the way. He says it is already late. If they want to finish this by tomorrow afternoon, they need to move. So the MC helps somewhat somewhere else a building catches fire. Some people are furious because someone cheated the Lone Wolf Casino. But another guy tell everyone to just put the fire out already. The guy again, the Lone Wolf has got a capper. The comments that makes are usually noise, but Tony it is. Even worse 16, even with our going on, his only job is to stay there. After all, he is the guard at the Lone Wolf Guild's gate. A hooded Aaron appears next to Garen and asks if he is okay, he also. As Garen hasn't moved an inch, even with the GT in chaos. Garen just says guarding that place is his duty. The captain mocks him, saying other organizations don't even have gatekeepers, so the Lone Wolf boss must not only because he is a coward. The doorman wants Aaron to watch his mouth because Philip is extremely cruel. He has a magic weapon that can make his opponents burn in seconds, but the scariest part is technique assigned to protect Philip. And even if he is hydron, with an injured right arm, Agni is still Agni. On top of that, Philip has 40 plus people blindly following him and there is nobody who can even lay a finger on him. Aaron thanks the doorman for the info. He says he could have just ignored Garen, but Garen reminded him of his old self, so it was good talking to him. Because of that, he will let Philip know about Garen's help. Before walking past him, Aaron says there is no such thing as an immortal human in this world, no matter their status, so if Philip dies, Garen should quit this job and go find something else because everyone is good at something. Garen is stunned and only realizes later that Aaron already walked past him. He starts thinking about what he might actually want to do with his life. The MC enters the tavern and says a bunch of people drinking and having fun. Yes, he sustains. Pop and realizes there are about 35 members in the Woken Faith. Also, he paid a few gold coins to members of the other two guilds to cause chaos outside. They agreed easily and symmetrically. And so most of the Lone Wolf members were outside dealing with their mess. Shockers was safe, so there was only one thing left at hand. The captain runs into a drunken, the messy hired guy. As slow the outsider is, Aaron realizes that as Technique, and he is not going to get past him that hasil, Technique stands up completely wasted. Aaron thinks that unlike this guy has a well-built body, but he still was the sure he do win because of this damn Nick's aura. So, the drone guy drops his bell and immediately rushes into attack Aaron, but Aaron dodges ring. And she realizes that in the blink of an eye, this idiot completely changed his stance and now had insane destructive power. And on top of that, a sword without aura would shatter if it clashed with honor. That aura, that is weak needs to break the opponent's weapon first. Lightning does exactly that, but the captain manages to move first and slip away from the street. Then he appears, right behind his enemy, freaking him out. He uses brute strength to knock aside the enemy's attack and land a hit to his back. Their chances of winning were pretty even, but what would make Aaron win was his lifestyle, because only one of them actually trained. And just like that, the drunk as head drops to the ground, rolling like a ball. Or MC tosses away his now broken sword and steals the sword from the poor dead drunk knight. Nearby, Nova was asleep until she woke up to a bunch of noise. Annoyed, she goes to the window to complain, but ends up saying the GTR. Fearing, down below, total chaos was breaking out with fires happening everywhere. Confused, Nova immediately asks what the hell is going on and starts thinking about Aaron. Then she stops herself, saying that even if Aaron is a troublemaker, he wouldn't do something like this. Back to the MC. Cat comes across a golden door and kicks it open inside. The guard says this fancy place full of gold and wonders if Philip is obsessed with nobility or something. Four idiots who tell themselves as the Celestial Kings show up and ask why Aaron is there. Saying them threaten him, the captain starts logging and tells them a bunch of fat guys. Philip sitting on a throne asks how the outsider managed to get there and get past the knee. Bahatan, Mahron recognizes the guild boss and just says he didn't say anything. But one of the little pigs recognizes Bahatan's sword with Aaron. So, Philip just takes and asks what he wants. War hero says he is there to finish off a cowardly wolf. For some reason, Philip bursts out laughing. He stands up and asks if Aaron really has the goods to kill him. After he is allied with Kon Bahat the level, only administrator of Karzan, and even Mayor Guram. Just a little longer, and they have allies in the Imperial family. The idiot says he'll forgive Aaron as insolence if the boy kisses his fate. Even after hearing all that, Aaron just uses his new sword to pat Philip on the head, shocking everyone. Then he says he didn't expect this idiot to step into his rank on purpose. And besides, that kind of threat doesn't work. Aaron is already being hunted by someone way more than Rose. Philip's body starts catching fire and Aaron realizes this is the magic weapon Gurun talked about. Then he tells the four Celestial Kings to pay attention, because he is about to hold interviews for the position of Lone Wolf Guild leader and Thierry Alfred to prove they deserve it. Skinniest of the four is impressed that Aaron didn't take care about the threats and pulled that off. So, hasiling, Aaron also says he'll finish off anyone who doesn't pass the test. At that moment, the three fat guys start yelling about their skills. But while the three of them argue, the skinny one comes up from behind and attacks one of them. Then he introduces himself as Dante, says he handled the guild as main tasks and asks Aaron to let him win the ladder. In a meeting, one of the background guys says that yesterday there was a fight between the GTS, three guilds, but apparently, they called a trouble. Sam shows up with a box, apologizing for being late. One of the women asks what the young guy is, and he introduces himself as the chief administrator. That same person asks why Sam broke the box, so the kid explains he got it on the way there and broke it because he was in a hurry. The woman accepts the apology and tells him to sit. Then, she says they haven't been able to contact the Lone Wolf Guild, so they need to find Philip. A spoiled but sitting next to Shawn starts picking on him for being a commoner, for being late, and for bringing a gift. He even says the kid probably got some crappy present, would never get promoted, and should just look for another job. After spending so much time around Aaron, Shawn decides to ask for once, telling the idiot to shut up and not talk about his friend as gift. He even grabs the spoiled guy by the collar about to beat him up. But at that moment, the box falls to the floor. Everyone freezes in shock. Shawn remembers when he was drinking with Aaron and said he didn't forget a promotion, because he was just a nobody and thought the only way he'd ever get promoted was if he broke Philip S. head, so then Whistle thought is exactly what was inside the box. When they say, all the nobles in the assembly start screaming in a flashback, Dante is getting the box ready with the heads and asks what the guild should do next. Aaron just tells him to figure it out himself, because if nobody else was after Kena, then Dante's job was already done. His only request was for Dante to protect she and let the Gattacaper girl do whatever he wanted to, so the new leader should just do his best and not annoy him. Then Trigides Helelsen reports to Aaron and also send him some gold coins. Somehow here else Whistle about Gui casting a spell in front of Aaron using Philip's magic artifact. The demon inside the MC gets confused. Aaron just tells him to shut up. A dark spell appears on the guard's head. After it gets cleaned off with a cleansing spell, Aaron is super happy. He even offers the bad Gui some gold coins to go to Kasardik and test a mag few spells. The Gui agrees and even suggests moving to the city, but then tells Aaron to wait. He uses his magic to clean Aaron's shoe and passes out in the process. Aaron is blessed with the surface, leaves a gold coin in the Gui's mouth, and tells him to look for him in Kasardik. Novo is walking through the city complaining about the mess. Ever you hear it, then she arrives and goes into the place where Aaron is waiting for her. She finds the captain asleep with his skin completely clean. After another day, the two of them are in the chariot heading back to Kasardik. The girl asks if Aaron caused any trouble, but they just say didn't break any walls. Afraid of becoming an accomplice, Nova just tells him to suit up. Then she asks why he broke all that armor, or MC says the armor is going to be like souvenirs from Charzon. Then he tosses her a breastplate as a gift, but they start arguing, because Nova thinks the breastplate is too small and Aaron says it is more than enough for her orbis. Suddenly, they hear a scream and arrow pierces the chariot. When he says the stone arrow, the MC understands what is going on. He steps out of the chariot saying the only on his woe is arrows that primitive array goblins. Then he runs into an army of them, saying about 20 enemies. Our hero is confused because that is a lot of monsters and they must have a village nearby. Then he tells Nova to get back inside since he'll be back after he has a little fun with the monsters. One of the creatures charges the captain, but gets taken out fast with a sword. With his other hand, the MC grabs on a monster by the neck and slams it into the ground. Saying that, two more creatures jump at the enemy, while taking down a bunch of them. Aaron says, this is all weird because goblins would normally run away after seeing the French Day. After the fight ends, Nova asks if Aaron is done, and he says yes. Then he thinks that for those idiots to keep charging until the end, someone must have been controlling them. Looking at his sword, the MK notices traces of dark magic coming from the goblins, and Nova asks if it is possible to control living goblins. The MC says yes, but explains that to control living things, the person has to be really strong. So we would summon like that, be in some remote place like this. Plus, a dark mage attacked Jessica recently. Nova realizes Vivian may be getting attacked again. Thinking about that just makes Aaron annoyed with his job battery. Get off Kasardik, two soldiers are talking, then the protagonist shows up riding a horse with Nova. One soldier is confused and asks why Aaron didn't come in a wagon. The MC says there were a lot of monsters on the road, so he had to head out and deal with them. Then he tosses a goblin June, laughing. The soldiers totally confused. He explains that this little thing helps a lot with stamina for those activities, but it is really hard to find for Sally. Hearing that, the random long-haired guy tries to bully it, but Nova, annoyed, tells Aaron to deal with that later because she wants to take a bath. Aaron apologizes and has to go and throws the goblin thing to the soldiers. It smacks the bearded soldier in the face and the other guy starts laughing. Later, we see all of Unit 4 wearing the armor Aaron broke. The Wasel is super happy with the gift. Then says it is a crazy coincidence that Chow starts in Carson Reg when Aaron shows up and he agrees. The older members are sure the captain had something to do with it. When Aaron says he asks how business is. but she complains they ran out of ingredients because the wagons haven't been arriving. On top of that, the Lord took all the remaining ingredients, so the tavern has nothing, and the king is agile. The light and the MC3 to calm her down, but she stays. Bishop Cal compliments the headscarf Hannah is wearing to cool things off, and instantly she gets all frustrated. The MC asks if anything happened while he was gone. Verman says nothing happened, but the church abbot can be looking for Aaron. Also, apparently a new faction is popping up in Sector 6. Aaron complains at Verman for not saying that sooner. He thinks that District 6 is Scar and his that Jackson is territory, so it is not normal for people to be gathering there. Then he leaves and tells Verman to go check out District 6. Walking around, Aaron complains about the place smelling like crap. Verman points in a direction and says it is over there. Then they share 3 punks together. Aaron tells the trio to come over, but this blondie guy steps forward. The criminal grabs him and starts sucking up to the guard. The MC stares at him for a bit and says, "Has never seen him around before." Then asks his name. Turns out it is George. So when T.S. George came to Kasardip with his ugly friends, the suspect says it was his mom's hometown, and they came there with his buddies to look for work. Because they heard it was a good place. Aaron decides to switch tactics when he says the guy sticking to his story instead of confessing. He immediately orders everyone to take their clothes off. After all, there was no better way to find out if those little thugs were involved with the devil. But the captain notices that even though they didn't have that mark, they had a ton of tattoos, so they were probably mixed up. In summating, George just took this and hands a silver coin to the guard. Then he leaves with his group after getting permission. Aaron says he is sure to see guys usap to be in again, but there was no way to arrest them without a reason. So he decides to go to the courts to deal with something else. Terry, Blaine is furious, begging Aaron to kill Brayton. The MC thinks, yeah, this guy is the real criminal because a priest shouldn't be saying that. Then he asks what the guy even is. Blaine explains that Brayton is the church's new abbot, some demonic idiot, and he is sick of all the quotes and prayers first thing in the morning. So Aaron asks if a priest isn't supposed to do that every day. Blaine ignores that, just hands Aaron a handful of coins, and says even beating Brayton up would make him happy, seeing a priest ask for an abbot to be murdered. Aaron realizes the guy is lost it. There is no way an abbot could be that bad. But not long after we see Brayton complaining that Aaron does not know the church prayer and trying to teach him. The guy keeps bombarding the temporary monk with criticism and church lessons. 3 hours later, Brayton is still going on about how important it is for a monk to notice truth and that Aaron should learn it. Our MC, exhausted from listening, is basically falling apart. Then he thinks, okay, this guy clearly loves criticizing people, so he will wait for him to contradict himself and then use that as an excuse to hit him, but that doesn't happen so easily, and we see Brayton blessing a bunch of kids. Watching all that, Aaron says it as the first time he has seen someone so impressive in this medieval world. Brayton says he originally thought Aaron didn't deserve to be a temporary monk, but after seeing him stick it out until the end of the day, he changed his mind. Aaron's faith is actually pretty strong, but the guy needs to study the scriptures more. After all that, Aaron realizes he failed his mission to find an excuse to punch the religious guy, so he won't accept the job, even though he already got paid for it. The next morning, Brayton is waking Aaron up early for prayer. The MC immediately shuts his door, shocked that the guy came looking for him at the tavern. Brayton says he heard Aaron trains every morning, so he'll help him pray without interrupting his training, making the MC furious. Aaron lands a bunch of slashes on an orc goblin. Another big grin on charges into avenging his friend, but one of them gets quickly cut in half by our MC, so the guy finishes counting his kills at 7. Cal mourns the death of the farmer, who got taken out by those creatures. Dylan suggests increasing patrols around the fortress, and Paul says there has been a rise in the number of monsters. Cal gets pissed at how long the nobles are taking to act and breaks size Venner as all the sun is getting ready to do a sweep of the area around time. Verman tells the captain they finished the job and cleared all the bodies. Aaron looking over the corpses notices that purple slime on them again. Then he leaves with his group and says goodbye to Pra. Up in a tree near the church, Joanna is eating and Aaron spots her. He decides to ignore her while thinking he has found signs of dark mages on the horse and the contagious flat that gone, so he needs to talk to someone. Good Blackguard shows up at the worst time because Brighton is calling one of the monks, saying they about yelling at they. Church as potion seller makes Aaron happy. Furious, the religious guy tells the monk to go hunt down something else to do because he is handling the sales himself now. Then he walks up to the MC and asks if the guard has read the Holy Scriptures. Aaron ignores the lecture and says he came because something urgent is going on. Some farmers were attacked by monsters and there were signs of dark mages on them. Brighton immediately understands that as why there has been more monsters around. Then he asks if anything happened to the farmers and hears that 4 people were victims of the origin. The guy flees into a rage and tells Aaron to handle things there while he goes off to take charge of something, but before leaving, he asks if the MC has sent Joanna, and Aaron realizes the Inquisitor had been hiding from him. Brighton went to Fulpo. The Lord Wu hunted down anything about the monsters, and that event told die. Farmers not to leave their land yanted at but as what carried a lot of weight. She personally led a huge funeral for the poor farmers. Aaron assists the nobles when the monster clearing wall happened and finds out that because of Brighton ate wall by tomorrow and only the Venner family and the inner fortress guards will take part. Aaron thinks it's obvious Miss Vivian won't be brought along to a fight against monsters, but that is worrying if the monsters are actually being worshipped as by evil mages to draw the troops. A while later, why the abbot and Nova will deal with it, even if there isn't a dark mage involved. The city guards are wriggling out and they can't leave Vivian unprotected. The next day, a soldier blows a trumpet. An army of random warriors rides out on horseback to clear out the monsters. Aaron thinks inside the fortress, Ben was protecting Vivian, and outside, Joanna was there. Then he remembers when Brighton read the Bible to him and Joanna, that naked in the middle of the forest. A red-headed woman asks how things are going. A hooded woman tells her crimson darkness and Harton are already at the fortress, and the castle troop are bush dealing with the monsters. Hearing that makes the rakyat happy. They hold it on as if it is really okay to cause all this trouble since even though it is on the border. Khazad-dûm is still part of the empire. Ulpif tells her servant not to worry because once the master consumes the heart of the unloved Bimanan, they want need to hide more and she won't mess up this plan like that idiot Dornoa did. Another follower says it as attempts to open the fortress gates. The rakyat snaps her fingers and this gross purple creature appears called the Tangle. She explains that even on the border, and fortress is still dangerous and you can't open the gates with weak power. Since the infiltrator is dealing with Ben, she tells them to call the Night Hunter. One of the idiots says they can't because he is running late, making her furious. Lot of patins. Oblit decides to go in first without help and tells everyone to get ready. At Oblit's command, the bell of purple slime moves toward the gate. Suddenly, it gets hit